Hey guys, tonight we sail straight into a world of damp boots, foul smells, and the kind of workplace safety that would make a modern HR rep faint. You're about to find out why you wouldn't last a single day on a medieval pirate ship, the lanterns. Swing gently overhead, casting shadows across the creaking planks as the ship rocks under you. Everything smells like salt, sweat, old fish, and something you can't quite place. Is that fermented eel? A rat scurries across your chest before vanishing into a knothole. You bolt upright, but to fast and whack your head on the beam. Above, welcome to the bilge. You're not in a Disney movie. You're in a moist coffin with splinters, so, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here, and drop your location and the local time in the comments. I love seeing where in the world you're drifting off from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You come to in the absolute worst place on the ship, the bilge, which is basically the ship's digestive system. It collects all the things that leak, rot, or otherwise fail to behave. Think of it as a sloshy soup of seawater, sewage, blood, spoiled food, and possibly the dreams of the last guy who slept here. Your clothes are damp. Your mouth is drier than a desert scroll. You're already seasick and you haven't even stood up yet. Above you, the sounds of boots on deck thud in chaotic rhythm. They're shouting, always shouting. Everything on a pirate ship seems to involve yelling and pointing, even breakfast. Someone suddenly shouts down the hatch, "Oi, swab, on your feet. Daylight's wasting." Oh, that's you now, swab. You try standing up. Your legs feel like undercooked noodles. The ceiling is too low to do anything gracefully. You bash your shoulder, then your knee, then trip on what you're praying is just a rope. Your boots squish. Everything squishes. This is not the heroic life of piracy you imagined. When you finally reach the deck, it's like being slapped in the face with a wet hand. The sunlight is searing. The wind screams in your ears, and the stench. It's actually worse up here. There's no escaping it. Pirate ships were, famously, not well ventilated. With up to 100 men crammed on a wooden bathtub, the smell of humanity just stuck around forever. Historians still argue whether pirates used any kind of deodorizing practices at sea citrus peel garlands, maybe, but judging from the olfactory assault you're currently enduring, probably not. You take your first real look at the crew, and instantly realize you're the least useful person here. These men move like they were born on the water barefoot, sunburnt, scarred, laughing about something that definitely sounds illegal. One of them raises an eyebrow at you and mutters, "Fresh meat." Lovely. The ship is alive in every sense. The sails groan, ropes creak, masts sway, and the sea beneath it all is a rolling, unpredictable monster. There's no such thing as a level surface here. Every step is a gamble. You grab a nearby beam to steady yourself and get a splinter roughly the size of a knitting needle for your trouble. Then, just as you're beginning to wonder if you can sneak back below, a voice like gravel soaked in rum bellows across the deck. "Swab the deck, worm." You turn to see him, the captain. He's exactly what you feared. Tall, terrifying, and adorned with enough weapons to equip a small militia. His coat flaps in the breeze like a vulture's wings. One eye squints permanently, and the other is watching you, closely, judgingly, with just a hint of "I might feed you to the sharks before lunch" energy. You nod, or maybe whimper. It's unclear. Either way, You're now being shoved toward a filthy bucket and a mop that smells like it died last week. Welcome to pirate life. Historical. Note: pirate captains weren't always tyrants. Some were elected, and pirate codes often emphasized fairness among the crew. But others, especially in the early medieval period, were brutal dictators who ruled by fear. Your captain, definitely the latter. You kneel to start scrubbing. The deck is covered in things that defy easy identification: dried blood, rotten, fish scales, something suspiciously green. You're working with salt water, so there's no lather, just abrasive rubbing and increasingly numb hands. Your knees start to ache. Your back's already protesting. A seagull dive bombs your head. You flinch, hit your bucket, and pour the contents all over your legs. It's still warm, that seems. Wrong. As you clean, you hear snippets of conversation. 3 weeks out and still no sight o' sails. Jones says the meat's gone bad. Did you hear about the last swab? Fell overboard. Didn't scream long. Excellent. Then someone nearby lets out a laugh, so loud it startles you. He's missing several teeth, has tattoos that look like they were carved with a nail, and is holding something up. Hey, new fish. Ever seen a two-headed rat? You have now. Quirky fact of the day. Pirates sometimes kept unusual pets on board for entertainment or superstition. Monkeys, parrots, cats, and, yes, even rats were not uncommon. Some believed animals could predict weather or bad luck. Others were just bored. Your stomach turns again, but not from the rat. The swaying motion, the heat, the smell, all of it conspires to unbalance your insides. You lean over the rail and vomit. It sprays downwind, unfortunately, directly onto some unfortunate rope coil. A sailor walking past mutters, "Rookie," but you're not alone. Seasickness was the great equalizer. Even experienced pirates sometimes fell victim to it, especially in stormy waters or after too much rum. There's no shame unless the captain sees you, which he does. You best toughen up quick, landlubber, he growls. Else we toss you back where you came from. You try to smile. It comes out more like a grimace. A nearby gull caws mockingly. The sun is climbing, and your tasks are just beginning. There's no clock on a pirate ship. Time is told by light, hunger, tides, and yelling. You have no idea how long you've been swabbing, but your arms are jelly and your knees feel like boiled leather. Somewhere below, someone is playing a crude fiddle. The sound is oddly soothing, until it stops abruptly, replaced by a cry of "Shark off the starboard." You rush to look. Big mistake. You trip over your own mop, bash your chin on a barrel, and end up sprawled flat, cheek against the still wet deck. Tastes like regret. Day one's barely started, and you already want to go home. The captain's shadow stretches across your sopping shirt long before you dare look up. You can feel his eyes burning into the back of your head like twin cannonballs. He hasn't said anything yet. He doesn't need to. That silence, it's the kind that implies someone's about to get stabbed or yelled at or both. When you finally glance up, your stomach flips. He's standing just a few feet away, arms crossed, a blade tucked casually into his sash, and a look on his face like you've personally offended his ancestors. His coat's made from something heavy, salt-crusted, and absolutely reeking of authority and sweat. A lot of sweat. Well, he says, voice like sandpaper on wet wood. You scrub worse than a drunk monkey with a club foot. You blink. He doesn't appear to be joking. You try to stand at attention. which is hard when your legs are still rebelling against the entire idea of standing. You almost salute, then stop yourself. This isn't the Navy, and you're not even sure which hand pirates consider the respectful one. Instead, you opt for the ever-classic look, terrified and slightly apologetic. The captain circles you once, slowly. Every inch of him tells a story, most of them violent. His left ear is torn in 2 places. There's a long scar running from his jaw to collarbone. One eye is slightly cloudy, like it once saw something it really, really didn't like. And the worst part, he smiles. "Where'd they find you, then?" he mutters. "Washed up with the bilge rats? Or did you crawl in with the galley leavings?" You open your mouth to answer, but quickly realize nothing you say will help. A few of the nearby crewmen have stopped their work to watch. They're smiling too. This is entertainment. Historians still argue. The captain muses out loud, mocking you now, whether the sea makes men hard, or whether it just finds the ones already broken. He leans in close. "We'll see what you are." Then he turns, shouting orders so quickly your brain barely registers the change. "Reef the topsail. Brace the yards. And someone show this sorry barnacle how not to die by noon." One of the deckhands, short, broad, missing exactly 2 fingers, grins at you like he's just been handed a pet project. "Come on, Greenling, you're with me." You follow, legs wobbling like boiled spaghetti. Your trainer, who casually introduces himself as Stub, starts pointing out parts of the ship at a dizzying pace. "That's the mainmast. Don't climb it yet, or you'll die. This here's the capstan. Don't touch it unless I tell you. Below that, that's the galley. Don't eat anything the cook gives you unless you want to grow a 3rd kidney." You try to keep up. Honestly, the ship is like a floating city made of trip hazards. Ropes snake across the deck. Buckets are never where they should be. Every beam is exactly the right height to smack your forehead. And the crew, they move fast, always ducking, hoisting, tying, or yelling by midday. The sun is a vicious god. In the sky, you've lost track of how many times you've tripped. Your shoulders ache from hauling ropes that feel like dragging wet dragons. And you're pretty sure someone pickpocketed you even though you don't have pockets. Stub slaps you on the back. "You're not the worst I've seen. Not the best either. That guy, see him. He joined last week. Already tried to mutiny. Now he's figurehead decor." You glance toward the bow. There's a bundle of rags tied near the figurehead. Is it a person? Is it moving? You decide not to ask. Suddenly, a voice bellows from above. "Captain, on the quarterdeck." Everyone stops. Eyes snap to the stairs, leading up to the raised rear platform. The captain steps up, surveying his domain like a king made entirely of salt and spite. He begins pacing, coat flaring behind him, barking status reports from various officers. One reports that rations are low. Another says the powder's running damp again. A third mentions a rumor about a Spanish galleon seen 3 days sail east. But it's the 4th officer, a wiry man with sunburned cheeks and haunted eyes, who steps forward and whispers something directly into the captain's ear. You can't hear it, but whatever it is, the captain's whole face tightens. Then, slowly, he turns and points. At you, you freeze. Everyone looks at you like you just farted in church. "Bring the new one," the captain says grimly. "Time for the welcome test." Oh no, you're grabbed gently, but firmly by 2 nearby crew members who guide you toward the quarterdeck. Your heart is pounding. You don't even know what a welcome test is, but based on pirate vibes so far, you're guessing it involves pain, humiliation, or both. The captain gestures to a barrel near the rail. Sit, you do. He holds something up, a worn, leather pouch. From it, he produces a coin. Answer me this, he says. Which way's north? You blink. He's not serious. Clock's ticking, he adds, flipping the coin. We're under sail. Winds, southerly suns, that way. You have no clue. You point vaguely to the left. Someone behind you coughs clearly, trying not to laugh. The captain smiles again. Wrong. He walks up and flicks the coin at your chest. It bounces off. Good news, he says. You're not a spy. Bad news, you're useless. Then, to your horror, he laughs. So does everyone else. It's a dry, rattling sort of laughter. You realize this was the test. Just enough pressure to see if you'd panic, or lie, or run. Well then, the captain booms. If you're staying, you work. If you're working, you learn. And if you learn, maybe you don't die. The crew disperses. Just like that, the moment's over. The sun's still blazing. The sails still snap. The ship still rocks. Stubb reappears, handing you a chunk of dry bread that might have once been. Soft, eat up, he says. Tomorrow you climb, you take a bite. It's like chewing old wood. Quirky tidbit time. Pirates didn't always use maps. Many relied on instinct, landmarks, and sea lore passed down from other sailors. Some even tattooed crude charts on their bodies. As the ship sails into the bleeding light of late afternoon, you sit cross-legged on deck, mouth full of splinters, pretending to be bread, and realize something truly chilling. This was a good day. The next morning begins the way all good nightmares do, with the sound of someone dumping a bucket of seawater over your head. You jolt awake, sputtering, limbs flailing, heart pounding like a war drum. Up, swab. Someone hollers. It's biscuit day. You have no idea what that means. But you're learning to fear anything said with enthusiasm on this ship. Stubb is already chewing on something, watching you with what could generously be called mild interest. Breakfast, he says, holding out a small canvas sack. You open it, then you shut it immediately. You take a second, open it again, hoping you hallucinated. Nope, it's a hardtack biscuit, which looks and smells like something you'd find in the ruins of an ancient bakery. The surface is pale, dense, and peppered with live weevils. Yes, live. Stubb shrugs. Extra protein. You stare at him. It's moving. He nods. Only the good ones do. You're lucky. Sometimes they're already dead. You blink. You bite. You regret. It's like gnawing on a brick made of despair and the bugs. You try to convince yourself that they crunch just like sesame seeds. It doesn't help, historically speaking. These rock-solid biscuits, often called ship's biscuits or just hardtack, were a sailor's staple. They were baked dry enough to survive for years at sea, and they did. Just long enough to go stale, grow mold, and become infested with insects. Historians still argue whether crews preferred eating them in the dark to avoid seeing the bugs, or whether they just became numb to it. You suspect it's the latter you're trying for. The former, there's also a piece of salted meat in the sack. You poke it with suspicion. It looks like a shoe heel. Possibly was a shoe heel. You sniff it. It smells like salt and sadness. Stubb gestures. You soak it in your grog. Helps the jaw. Ah yes, grog, the pirate's breakfast, drink of champions. It's a mix of rum, water, and sometimes lime or spices if someone's feeling fancy. It's barely enough alcohol to count, but just enough to make everything slightly less terrible. Yours tastes like rust and rotten fruit. You dunk the meat, chew slowly, and try not to gag. Everything in your mouth feels like a prank. Nearby, one of the crew is already retching. You're not sure if it's from the food or just a delayed reaction to last night's rat stew. Either way, the smell is making a strong case for you to become a breakfast minimalist, just when you think the worst part of the morning is over. A cheerful voice shouts, "Time to clean the slop bucket." You look around. Surely they don't mean no. They do. The slop bucket is exactly what it sounds like. It's where uneaten food, dish, water, vomit, and other unnamables end up. And it's now your job to haul it overboard and toss it with minimal splashback, if possible. You lift the bucket carefully. It sloshes ominously. The smell could singe your eyebrows. You inch your way to the rail like someone carrying a holy relic made of sewage. One wrong step, one gust of wind, one curious seagull. Splash. Congratulations. You've now baptized yourself in slop. Stubb laughs so hard he nearly drops his grog. That's tradition, he howls. New crew always gets the slop blessing. It is, apparently, not a real tradition. They just do it for fun. You stand there, dripping, smelling like every bad decision ever made aboard this vessel, wondering how many diseases you've just contracted in one go. Quirky tidbit of the day: pirates rarely washed with soap or clean water. Salt water rinses were common, but hygiene was a low priority. However, some pirates used vinegar to disinfect themselves or their tools. Doesn't help you much right now, does it? You're told to strip off the worst of your clothes and hang them to dry. For the rest of the morning, you're wearing a borrowed shirt 2 sizes too big that smells like mildew and ghost tears. And of course, it rains. Just enough to get you wet. Not enough to feel refreshed later. When you think the day has finally decided to stop assaulting your dignity, lunch is announced. You are, somehow, still hungry. The cook, a wiry man, with one eye and a long scar along his forearm hands. Your bowl. The contents are grey, sludgy. There are chunks. You don't ask what they are. Asking only invites pain. Stubb leans over. It's stew. You poke it. Of what? He pauses. Whatever fell off the last crate of meat. Don't worry. If it is rat, it's cooked. Historians still debate what exactly went into pirate stews, as few written records exist. Most agree it was a mix of dried meat, sea biscuit crumbs, and occasionally boiled seaweed, or anything vaguely edible. But what you're eating now, it defies classification. You eat half, out of hunger or masochism. Hard to say. Afterwards, your stomach feels like it's rehearsing for a mutiny of its own. But there's no time to rest. Someone shouts for all hands on deck. You drop the bowl, you think it hisses at you, and rush up the ladder. A new storm cloud is brewing in the distance, and the captain wants sails checked before it hits. But first, the midday ration is distributed: a wedge of moldy cheese and a slice of citrus. The cheese smells like it moonlights as a foot. The citrus, at least, is a saving grace. You bite into the slice, and for a moment, just one beautiful, sacred moment, everything feels right. It's juicy, sour, and not crawling with anything. A tiny miracle, and then Stubb ruins it. Only got a few of those left, he says. Better savor the scurvy shield while it lasts. You freeze. Scurvy. He grins. Oh yeah, last ship I was on, 2 lads lost all their teeth. One guy's gums turned black. We fed him rum till he stopped talking. Excellent. Scurvy. As you now realize, is the unholy terror of sailors. Caused by vitamin C deficiency, it leads to bleeding gums, weakness, rotting teeth, and slow, ugly death. The citrus, your only hope, and you're almost out. The sun lowers, the wind picks up, your belly grumbles in protest. Everything hurts, you stink like a neglected swamp. And there's one more realization creeping in. This was still a quiet day. By now, you've learned that pirate ships operate on a pretty simple logic. If something smells bad, it's probably your job to touch it. So when the bosun yells your name, well, your new name, Gutterbait, and points to a stained, sloshing bucket sitting ominously by the mainmast, you already know what's coming. Swabbing. Again, but this time, it's not just seawater and spilled grog. This is full-blown bodily chaos. Pirate ships didn't have toilets. They had rails, or buckets, or nothing. And when the waves were rough or the stew hit wrong, the results pooled. You grab the mop, it's stiff with dried something. Your hands still smell like yesterday's slop incident, and now you're adding a new layer of horror. You wonder briefly if your fingerprints will ever recover. Stubb saunters past and offers a helpful tip. Don't breathe through your nose. It's too late. Your job for the next 2 hours is to scrub the lower deck below the sleeping hammocks, near the storage crates, right beside the barrel of pickled eels that's been slowly fermenting into sentient life. The deck is sticky. The bucket leaks. The mop splinters. You slip at least 3 times, inventing new forms of yoga as you attempt not to land face first in, well, whatever this was. Somewhere in the corner, a rat watches you, judgmentally. He's the cleanest thing here. Historical fact. Despite the romantic image, pirate ships were filthy. Most were rarely cleaned properly, and swabbing the deck was more about keeping the wood from rotting than maintaining hygiene. Bilge, rot, human waste, and spoiled food created a permanent smell described by some survivors as sour death soup. And lucky you're ankle deep in it. You scrub, you gag, you contemplate walking off the plank voluntarily. But before despair can fully bloom, you hear it a bell. 2 rings. Stubb pokes his head in, breaks over. You're on rat duty. You stare at him, horrified. Is that worse than this? Oh yes, he grins. Much. Turns out the ship has a rat problem, which makes sense between the food, the heat, and the lack of cats. This place is a rodent paradise. Your new task is to crawl into the lower hold with a battered stick, a sack, and the instructions. Get what you can, and don't let M bite your face. Quirky tidbit. Some pirates believed rats were omens. A mass exodus of rats from a ship was seen as a bad sign. Maybe a storm coming, or the ship being cursed. Which raises the question, why are the rats running toward you right? Now you descend into the hold. It's dark, damp, and filled with the skittering sounds of rodent feet. Your candle flickers. The stick feels way too small for the number of noises echoing around you. The first rat appears, beady-eyed, fearless, and roughly the size of a loaf of bread. You swing, miss, swing again. It shrieks and vanishes into a sack of oats. You manage to catch one, barely. It hisses at you the entire way up the ladder, biting the fabric of the bag, until Stubb ties it shut and tosses it overboard. That's lunch sorted, he jokes. You don't laugh. By mid-afternoon, you're finally allowed to rest. Rest meaning you sit in a corner of the deck with a chunk of hardtack, a cup of grog, and the vague hope that no one yells your name for 5 minutes. The sea is calmer now. The sun's baking the planks. A few crew members are mending sails. Others darning holes in their shirts or carving scrimshaw into bits of bone. You try to relax. A sailor with a flute starts playing a tune. It's nice, actually. For a brief moment, there's peace. Even the rats seem to take a break from plotting world domination. Then, just as your eyelids start to droop, a loud thump sounds behind you. You turn to see a barrel rolling across the deck, straight toward a coil of rope. No, no, no. A voice shouts, crash dot crash, barrel down, rope everywhere. And you, of course, are the one closest to the mess. Stubb claps you on the back. Guess who's on coil duty? You sigh. Coiling rope sounds simple. It isn't, especially not on a pirate ship, where the rope is soaked, frayed, and weighed down by sea gunk. You're shown how to loop it properly, which involves some kind of wrist flick that might be illegal in most sports, and told if you tangle it, someone could die. Cool. You spend the next hour coiling, uncoiling, recoiling, and cursing internally out loud. Cursing is the captain's territory. Every knot you tie looks like a drunken squid. Your fingers are cramping. One of the coils snaps back and hits you in the shins so hard you see stars. Stubb just nods approvingly. Means you're doing it right. You finally get one loop perfect. Just one, a small victory. It's immediately stepped on by a barefoot crew member hauling a pig carcass. You don't even ask. There's no dignity here, no privacy, no clean socks. But there's a strange rhythm beginning to form in your mind. Scrub, haul, dodge, coil, eat, gag, repeat, still, as you collapse onto your hammock, a word that oversells the collection of ropes and mildew you now sleep on. A terrible realization strikes you. You're getting used to it, which is both comforting and deeply, deeply disturbing. The call comes at dawn, like a cruel joke delivered before your brain. Fully boots up, get up gutter bait. You're going aloft. Aloft. The word bounces around your skull for a moment before settling into a shape you recognize. Climbing, rope, height, masts. You blink at Stubb, hoping it's some nautical prank. You mean like, up there, he points. You follow his finger. Upward and upward and upward. The mainmast looms above you like the world's angriest tree. The rigging sways gently in the breeze. From below, the sails flap like thunder. You imagine climbing, it will be like ascending a waterfall made of rope, salt, and pain. Stubb hands you a crude rope harness and a blank expression. You climb to the crosstrees, then you sit, and don't fall, or the captain be mad about. The mess. You try to argue, but someone's already shoving you toward the base of the mast. There's no ladder, just the ratlins rope ladders tied to the shrouds like a deadly game of vertical hopscotch. Your hands grasp the first rung. It's slick, your boots don't grip. You've never climbed anything taller than your childhood bunk bed. Historians still argue whether green hands like you were forced up the mast on day 3 or day 10, Stubb says helpfully. But me, I say, the sooner you fall, the less we waste on rations. Charming, you start to climb. The wind picks up immediately, teasing your shirt and tugging your balance. You glance down, mistake the deck already looks far away, too far, and you've barely passed the height of the quarterdeck. A seagull swoops by, glaring at you like you're intruding on its ship. Keep going, Stubb yells. You grit your teeth and pull yourself up. The ratlins creak, the ropes fray. The higher you go, the more everything moves, not just side to side, but in weird circling lurches, that make your stomach protest violently. You reach the crosstrees horizontal beams that brace the mast. They're narrow, no handrails, just rope, wood, and gravity. You straddle one and cling like a baby koala to a tree branch during an earthquake. Now sit there. Someone shouts from below. Let your eyes get used to the heights. You're not sure your eyes are the issue. Your internal organs are filing formal complaints. While you're up there, let's talk facts. Pirates needed to climb masts constantly, usually to unfurl sails, make repairs, or act as lookouts. The crow's nest, often located just above your current perch, was basically a glorified barrel lashed to the mast, where one lucky sailor got to stare at the sea for hours while freezing, swaying, and occasionally vomiting. You're almost glad you didn't get that assignment. Almost, but then it gets worse. Loosen the clue. Someone hollers. You squint. Clue, isn't that a type of shoe? Turns out it's the corner of a sail. And now you're expected to untie a knot that's been soaking in seawater and sun for weeks, one-handed while clinging to a beam. In the wind, your fingers are trembling. The knot is stuck tighter than your jaw during a horror movie. You wrestle with it, praying to every sky, deity you've ever vaguely heard of, and then the knot comes loose. The sail flaps free, catches the wind and smacks you in the face so hard you nearly let go of the rigging. You cling on by instinct, legs wrapped around the beam, arms gripping rope, your whole body screaming. Somewhere below, Stubbs cackling like he's just watched the best scene in a slapstick play. But hey, small victories. You didn't fall, not yet. That's when the wind really kicks in. A sudden gust, the mast lurches. You lurch. The whole ship tilts just enough to remind you that water is everywhere and waiting. Your arms burn, your knees shake. You can feel the rope biting into your palms. And you still have to climb down. Fun fact. Some pirate ships had crews as young as 10 or 12 years old, especially in desperate times. These boys were often referred to as powder monkeys or cabin lads. And yes, they too were sent up the mast. So technically, you're being outperformed right now by someone who hasn't finished growing their adult teeth. You start descending, slowly. Every movement is careful, shaky, tense. You pause midway to catch your breath and are instantly hit in the face by a wayward gull feather. You nearly shriek. Almost there, Stubb calls. That last stretch feels like the longest, but eventually miraculously your boots hit deck. Your legs give out. You lie down, hugging the wooden planks like an old friend. The captain walks by, doesn't even glance at you, and mutters, "Still alive, shame." A crewmate nearby snorts. "He'll fall tomorrow." You're too tired to argue. Quirky tidbit. Pirates occasionally punished disobedient crew members by sending them up the mast in storms, forcing them to cling to the rigging as punishment. It was called mastheading. You don't want to know what the next level of punishment was. Back on deck, Stubb tosses you a flask of grog. You drink half before realizing it's probably twice as strong as yesterday's. "Did good gutter bait," he says. "Didn't scream like a babe." You try to smile. Your lips don't work. "Tomorrow," he adds, you help furl the mainsail. Your soul quietly leaves your body. As the sun sets, you peel off your shirt and rinse it in seawater. It's still crusted with tar from the ropes. Your arms are streaked with bruises. Your knees are scraped, but you didn't fall. That's something. You eat dinner in a day's fish stew with something crunchy you choose not to investigate. The cook smiles. which worries you more than if he'd glared. Later that night, you lie in your hammock, the ship swaying gently beneath you. The stars are out, dozens of them, maybe hundreds. You can hear someone singing on the forecastle, a slow, sad tune in a language you don't recognize. For just a moment, it's almost peaceful. Then a sailor's voice floats through the darkness. "Hey, gutterbait, hope you're not afraid of heights." You groan. Tomorrow's climb will be higher. You're woken before dawn by a sound no one should ever wake up. Two, screaming, not the dramatic battle cry kind. No, this is a guttural, choked yelp of pain, and it's close. You bolt upright in your hammock, nearly flinging yourself onto the deck below. There's shouting, footsteps, and the unmistakable noise of someone vomiting. Stubb appears at your side like a summoned goblin. "Get up, gutterbait, it's a tooth day." You blink at him, a what? He jerks his thumb toward the lower deck. One of the lads has a rotter, jaws swelled up like a pufferfish. Captain says it's time for the old hook and pull. You're suddenly very awake. Moments later, you're crammed into the dim confines of the crew quarters, where half the sailors have gathered in a tight circle. In the center sits a man named Tarn, hunched over, cradling his face like it's holding in a small demon. His cheek is grotesquely swollen bright red, pulsing and hot enough to steam a biscuit. He moans as someone dabs his mouth with a rag soaked in rum. Beside him stands the ship's doctor. You instantly regret coming. He's wearing what might generously be called a coat, though it's more patchwork than garment. His fingers are stained, possibly with ink, possibly with blood, and his toolkit looks like it was stolen from a blacksmith. He holds up a pair of long, iron tongs. "Right," the doctor says brightly. "Open wide, mate." Tarn shakes his head violently. The doctor shrugs. "We can hold you down, or I can give you the barrel." Tarn stops shaking. You, meanwhile, are pressed against the bulkhead, trying to disappear into the wood. The smell of rum, blood, and terror is thick. One sailor cheerfully munches a biscuit nearby, completely unfazed. The procedure begins. You won't hear screams like this again until the mutiny, spoiler alert. Tarn thrashes, groans, kicks butt. 5 strong men hold him steady. The doctor yells, "There it is, the black devil," and yanks. There's a horrible squelch, followed by a plop as the tooth along with an unhealthy chunk of gum hits the deck. Everyone cheers. Even Tarn, in a faint, delirious sort of way. The doctor holds up the tooth like a trophy. That's a fine one. Anyone else feeling twinny? No one moves. Mainstream historical fact. Pirates had no access to real dentistry. Rotten teeth were pulled out with pliers, knives, or even nails. Sometimes sailors would attempt to numb the pain with rum or bite on leather. But infection, that was the real killer. A simple abscess could lead to death within days if the infection spread. Or, if you were lucky, you just lost half your jaw. Stubb nudges you. You're gonna want to brush. If you can find a stick and some charcoal. You do not want to brush. You want to leave. But the mourning continues. As punishment for nearly fainting during the extraction, you're ordered to assist the ship's surgeon for the day. Which basically means you carry bloody rags, dump slop buckets again, and learn far too much about things that ooze. There's a man with a splinter so deep it might reach his lungs. Another with an infected leg wound from a rusty nail current, being lanced open with a knife that was just used to carve a sausage. "Oh, we share tools," the surgeon says proudly. Keeps things simple. You don't eat lunch that day. Instead, you sit in the shade, sipping grog with 1,000-yard stare, while the surgeon regales you with stories. Had a lad once stuck a fishhook through the eye, yanked it out himself, could still see out. The other one, we made him quartermaster for a week. You nod slowly, he continues. Back in 13, we cauterized a busted foot with a cannon rod. Worked, mostly. Smelled like roast goose for a day. You nod faster now, hoping he'll stop. Then he leans close, lowers his voice, and says, "You've got good hands. Ever thought about becoming a bonesaw?" Your soul gently leaves your body again. Quirky tidbit, some pirates preferred sailing, with ship surgeons, and would even raid coastal towns specifically to kidnap them. But when no professional was available, the job often fell to the cook, carpenter, or whoever had the strongest stomach. In this case, probably the man who just scraped pus off a sailor's back using a seashell. You're dismissed from duty just in time for supper. You try eating with your mouth only slightly open, paranoid about your own teeth now. You swear one of your molars feels loose, stub notices, got a twitchy one. You shake your head violently. Nope, perfect teeth, solid, anchors of bone. Don't even need really, could live on soup. He squints at you suspiciously. You spend the next hour pretending to be asleep, just to avoid him. That night, a storm rolls in Gentile, but enough to rock the ship more than usual. Your hammock swings like a cradle made of regret. The darkness feels extra thick. Every creak in the hull sounds like it's whispering root canal. You dream of Tarn, of the tooth, of that smile he gave after the yank, bloody, gappy, triumphant. And when you wake up, the first thing you do is check your mouth. Still there. For now, it's your first real pirate job. No, not cleaning fish guts, not swabbing the deck, not dodging stub surprise, slaps to the back of the head. You're going ashore. The lookout spotted a merchant vessel limping into a cove just beyond the reef, badly damaged, undermanned, and ripe for the picking. The captain made the call. At dawn, a small raiding party would take a rowboat ashore, sneak through the underbrush, and liberate anything of value. It's not quite the epic cannon-blazing boarding you imagined, but you're too new, too dumb, and too slow to argue. You get handed a cutlass that still has someone else's initials carved into the hilt, plus a pistol that looks like it was last fired during a different century. No one gives you ammunition. That's comforting. Don't point that at your face, says the quartermaster. Even unloaded, it still bites. You nod solemnly, as though you hadn't just tried to look down the barrel 5 minutes earlier. Your rowboat shoves off just after sunrise. 6 of you, paddling through a fog-choked inlet, the jungle on either side as dense as stew. Mosquitoes the size of thumbs hover like tiny scouts. Everything smells damp and alive. You reach the beach without incident, drag the boat ashore, and follow your crewmates up into the trees. This is where the glamour ends, because sneaking through jungle terrain with 6 smelly men in leather boots is roughly as subtle as dragging a drum kit through a porcelain shop. You trip on a root. Twice, Stubb walks directly into a spider web the size of a sail and lets out a noise that will haunt you forever. Mainstream, historical fact. Pirates didn't. Always storm ships with grappling hooks and swords swinging. More often, they waited for targets to anchor or run aground, then sent small groups to raid supplies especially food, water, and gunpowder. These stealthier missions were essential for survival and much less cinematic. You finally spot the merchant ship through the trees, nestled against a rock outcropping. Two guards stand near the hull, half asleep, leaning on spears. You hide behind a tree and hold your breath, waiting for your moment. That's when your stomach gurgles. Glances at you, horrified. Are you serious? You whisper, it's nerves. He whispers back, so's dysentery, you cabbage. The guards shift. One looks into the trees. There's a pause, tense, razor-sharp. Then, miraculously, he yawns and sits down. Crisis avoided. Your crewmates fan out, creeping low, weapons drawn. You follow, heart hammering. Every footstep feels impossibly loud. The air is thick and buzzing. You feel sweat pooling in places sweat should never be. Suddenly, chaos. Someone shouts. A guard stirs. Stubb lunges, clobbers the man with the butt of his pistol. A crate crashes to the ground. A musket goes, off not yours. Thankfully, and all sneaking ends right there. The raid becomes a blur. You run, dodge, grab what you can. Burlap sacks full of dried meat. A few pistols. One of your crewmates finds a box of limes and declares it a miracle. You personally find a pouch of sugar, a silver comb, and a pair of boots that are only slightly moldy as you scramble back toward the boat. One last thing catches your eye. A journal, leather-bound, left on a crate. Without thinking, you grab it. You all leap into the rowboat, paddle like devils, and escape just as the merchant's crew regroups. Enough to shout threats from the shore. Safe, soaked, grinning like fools, back aboard. The ship, the captain inspects the loot with the grim satisfaction of a man who's stolen better. He eyes the limes. Scurvy'll wait another week, then quirky tidbit, scurvy, caused by vitamin C deficiency, was the true silent killer of the sea. Sailors sometimes sucked on raw potatoes, chewed pine needles, or even drank lime juice mixed with rum to stave it off. British sailors were so associated with citrus that they earned the nickname limeys. Your journal find earns you a rare nod of approval. Might have trade secrets, the captain mutters, flipping through it with hands like driftwood, or maps, or love poems. Stubb mutters, the captain scowls, you volunteering to read it aloud. Stubb shuts up. That night, you're allowed a double ration of grog. You drink it slower this time, maybe even taste it. You're sore, sunburnt, scratched up from head to toe, but proud. Not because you looted anything useful, but because, for once, no one called you gutter bait. Okay, Stubb still did, but less venomously. Historians still argue whether these quick-hit raids were more profitable than ship-choose-ship combat, or just easier on crew morale. Some say pirates preferred them for the surprise advantage. Others argue they were acts of desperation during lean weeks at sea. Either way, the hit-and-run lifestyle was very real. The sea is calm as you sway in your hammock. For the first time, the sound of creaking wood and sloshing water doesn't feel threatening, it feels familiar. Comforting, even. You stare at the moon overhead and wonder about the people on that merchant ship, where they were headed. What stories they'll tell about being attacked by pirates. You grin in the dark. They probably won't even mention you, but you'll remember. Every gurgle, every spiderweb, every awful inch of those stolen boots. You wake up to a gunpowder boom. Not the good kind, the ceremonial, we want something kind. No, this one's sharp, chaotic, and way too close. You jerk upright in your hammock, nearly braining yourself on the deck beam above. All around you, the ship lurches with shouting. Boots pound overhead. the unmistakable stench of sulfur snakes down through the air. You scramble up top in a panic, still barefoot, your shirt on inside out. What greets you isn't battle yet, but something far more terrifying. Gun drills. The captain's idea of staying sharp. Your heart sinks. These drills are notorious among the crew, not for their intensity, but because they almost always result in injury. Usually stupid ones, like forgot to untie the ramrod or lit the fuse before turning around. You're already regretting being on time. The cannon's black iron beasts you hadn't looked at twice until now line the port side like sleeping dragons. Each weighs more than a horse and is secured with thick ropes, wheels, and bracing wood planks. Today, they're being woken up. Mainstream historical fact. Naval cannons in the early 18th century were incredibly heavy, slow to reload, and dangerous, even to the crew. A well-trained gunnery team might get off one shot every 2 minutes. Misfires were common, and recoil could blast a cannon right across the deck if it wasn't properly tied down. You're assigned to Cannon 3, affectionately nicknamed Old Spewer. No one tells you why. Stubb appears next to you, already sweating. This one's killed 2 men. Just FYI. You laugh nervously. He does not. You're handed your job. Powder monkey. Sounds cute, right? Wrong. It means you carry sacks of explosive black powder from the ship's magazine up to the gunners. Dodging ropes, fire, and screaming idiots the whole time. Your only equipment, a canvas pouch, and the faint hope you don't explode. As the captain shouts the drill into motion, the deck erupts in orchestrated chaos. Someone drops a rammer, another guy loads the wrong-sized shot. A third manages to set his sleeve on fire, shrieking as he flaps it out like a deranged chicken. You dash back and forth between the powder locker and the guns, the little pouch swinging wildly at your side. Every time you deliver a charge, you duck low and pray. At one point, a cannon goes off slightly early. Your ears ring. Your vision sways. You taste metal. Welcome to gun crew, Stubb yells over the din, grinning like a lunatic. Feels like thunder in your bones, yeah. You're about to respond when Old Spewer fires. Everything slows. The cannon lurches back hard. The rope strains, and then dash snaps. The gun rolls. Not toward you, thank Poseidon, but it does crush someone's foot. You'll never forget the crunch, or the screaming, or the fact that no one even pauses. The captain keeps yelling. The drill continues. Casualty drills come after the real ones. Someone says helpfully. You nod. You think you nod. You're mostly trying not to vomit. Quirky tidbit. Some pirate ships had their own nicknamed cannons, often named after women, devils, or bad jokes. Widowmaker, Betsy's Belch, and Satan's Toothpick are just a few examples from recorded logs. Pirates were big on personality even for artillery. After what feels like a week, the drill ends. You're soaked with sweat and smoke. Your hands are blackened. Your eyes still vibrate. Stubb hands you a biscuit. For surviving, you take it, bite down and immediately regret it. The powder has settled on everything, and your biscuit now tastes like ash and regret. The rest of the day is spent cleaning the guns, retying ropes, and swabbing the deck with vinegar to neutralize the lingering black powder. You learn the difference between cannon shot, chain shot, and grape shot. You do not ask which one is used for birds. Stubb would never let you live it down. Historians still argue whether pirate ships maintained good gunnery discipline or were haphazard messes. Some scholars suggest their reputation for wild firing was exaggerated by enemy reports, while others believe pirate gunners were more focused on disabling ships than winning elegant naval battles. One truth remains. Their aim wasn't to sink ships, but to steal them. That night, your ears still ring. Your fingers smell faintly of brimstone. Every time you close your eyes, you feel that cannon lurch again. The snap of the rope, the scream. You ask Stubb how long it takes to get used to the drills. He shrugs. When you stop flinching, you're either confident or deaf. You lie in your hammock, staring at the planks overhead, one hand on your chest to feel it rise and fall. You survived, barely dot, and yet there's something about the boom, the raw force of it, the heat, the smell. A little part of you okay. A very little part wants to do it again. You fall asleep thinking about the next time old spewer fires, hopefully in the right direction. The good news. Today, you're not swabbing anything, dodging cannon fire, or fighting for your life. The bad news. Today, you're navigating, which sounds fun romantic, even until you remember you can't read a map without accidentally turning it upside down. And last week, you mistook a compass for a snack tin. You're not the navigator, of course. You're the navigator's assistant. Or, more accurately, the person he yells at for 8 hours while charting a course. You meet him just after dawn. He's got a face like an angry raisin and a voice like he's been gargling rum since the War of Spanish Succession. His name is Mr. Tiernan, though most of the crew calls him Crab Eyes for reasons you try not to look directly at. He slaps a sextant into your hands and says, "Hold this. Don't drop it, or breathe wrong on it." You nod solemnly. Then breathe wrong on it. He glares, off to a roaring start. You trail him to the quarterdeck where the sea stretches endlessly in every direction. The sails creak above, ropes singing in the wind. It's oddly peaceful up here until Crab Eyes starts, muttering about declination and lunar distance and whether Neptune's backside is aligned with Jupiter's beard. You just nod and pretend you understand. Mainstream historical fact. Navigation, in the early 1700s, relied heavily on dead reckoning. Celestial readings using sextants and log lines of rope with knots tied at measured intervals, tossed overboard to calculate speed. The phrase knots for nautical speed literally comes from counting these intervals as the rope played out. You learn about the log line firsthand. One of your early jobs is to toss it over the stern and count the knots as they slip through your fingers while a sandglass times 30 seconds. You do it wrong 3 times. Once, you let go of the whole rope. The captain wasn't pleased. Another lesson. Never yell, "Oops." While timing navigation tools, Stubb passes by once and whispers, "You lose our heading. I'm blaming you personally when we hit Madagascar." You don't know where Madagascar is. You pretend you do. By midday, the sun's high and angry. Crab Eye shows you how to use the sextant to measure the sun's angle above the horizon. You squint through it like a child with a kaleidoscope. "Don't look directly at the sun," he barks, "unless you fancy going blind before lunchtime." Too late. You're now seeing sunspots everywhere, including on Crab Eye's nose, which he does not find funny. Still, little by little, it starts to make sense. The sun's height tells you the time. The stars help with latitude. The compass, well, it spins, but only mostly in one direction. You learn to read the maps, which are stained, fraying, and hand-drawn with little sea monsters decorating the dangerous parts. Quirky tidbit. Some old maritime maps genuinely included artistic drawings of sea beasts' grokkens, giant fish serpents lurking at the edges of the known world. While partially decorative, they often marked places sailors feared most. A warning, wrapped in mythology, Grabbeye's points to a particular section labeled Reef of Bones. You ask what it means. He shrugs. Could mean pirates. Could mean wrecks. Could mean someone was bored. You love that answer. As you lean over the map, measuring distances with a clapper, you realize something unexpected. For the first time since joining the ship, you're trusted with knowledge. Asterisk. Not just how to mop a floor or hold a sword, but how to keep the whole floating city pointed in the right direction. It's terrifying, and weirdly satisfying. Don't smile like that, Crabbeyes mutters. It's unnatural. You frown. Instantly, that's better. As the sun dips and the stars begin to appear, you help with the evening readings. You learn to find Polaris. You mark coordinates on the chart. You even guess the current heading, and Crabbeyes only corrects you by a few degrees. Not bad, he grunts. Still stupid, but not bad. You float home on that compliment. Historians still argue whether pirate ships had skilled navigators aboard or just relied on stolen charts and luck. Some believe that privateers turned pirates brought experience from naval service, while others think navigational know-how was passed down like gossip, half remembered, half accurate, wholly chaotic. Tonight, as you eat salted pork that's more salt than pork, you study the stars above with new eyes. They aren't just twinkling lights anymore. They're directions, clues, anchors in the sky. Stubb sits beside you. So how lost are we? Only slightly. He chuckles. That's downright reassuring. You stretch out your legs, the sea breeze cooling the sweat from your back. The stars spinning ever so slowly overhead. You're still not a pirate. Not really, but you can point the way. And tonight, somehow, that's enough. The morning air smells like salt, sweat, and disease. You wake up with a scratchy throat, a pounding headache, and an ominous queasiness curling in your stomach. Yes, welcome to pirate life's favorite hobby, the plague of fleas and lice. Pirate ships were notorious floating petri dishes. Your hammock is a micro-jungle of crawling pests. Your clothes are itchy nightmares, sewn from skin flakes and mildew. And that relentless buzzing in your ear. Not your imagination. You try scratching discreetly. Fail spectacularly. Stubb grins at your misery. Welcome to the skin carnival, friend. Historians confirm this wasn't just pirate paranoia. Fleas, lice, and bedbugs infested every crevice of a ship. Personal hygiene was a joke. Fresh water was too precious to waste on washing. The only baths most pirates took were with salt water, and that barely helped, in fact. Many pirates believed that body lice were a natural part of life, at sea some even saw them as lucky charms, symbolizing survival. Quirky tidbit, one pirate captain was rumored to have kept a lice comb in his treasure chest, polishing it, alongside gold coins. It was said to bring good fortune and was passed down like a family heirloom. You dig through your belongings looking for your own comb, or any weapon that might dislodge the itchy invaders. No luck. Your crewmates offer grim advice: smoke the hammocks, vinegar baths, just tough it out. You try all three. None work. And then, of course, there's the disease. Pirates weren't just itchy, they were dangerously ill. Scurvy, dysentery, typhus, and malaria all stalked the crew. Your grog ration is half medicine, half poison. Stubb coughs beside you, hacking like a man who swallowed a harbour. You swallow your own cough and remember the captain's warning last week. Sick men slowed down the ship, meaning get better or get thrown overboard. The sun beats down mercilessly as you toil through the day, trying to ignore the crawling sensations under your skin. Every scratch feels like a desperate negotiation for relief. Your sleep is restless, filled with dreams of giant spiders and endless waves of gnats. You start to question your life choices. Mainstream historical fact: pirates' health was generally terrible due to poor diet, bad water, lack of sanitation, and close quarters. Ships were breeding grounds for infectious diseases, which often spread faster than any battle injury. Still, pirates developed some unconventional remedies. Some carried herbs and roots, and a few captains tried quarantine though space was tight. Historians still argue whether pirate crews had better or worse health than naval ships, given the pirates' tendency for looser discipline, but sometimes better access to fresh provisions through raiding. By evening, you're itching to the point of madness. Stubb offers a last-ditch remedy: rub mud on the worst spots and let the sun bake it dry. It sounds ridiculous. It works. You sit on the deck, caked in mud, feeling like a creature of the earth itself. Other pirates give you strange looks, but don't ask questions, at least until you try to stand up and leave. The mud cracks loudly. You grin, sheepishly. Maybe you'll survive another day, but only just. You're on deck when the captain calls for boarding practice. This isn't your usual drill with swords or cannons. No, this is the real deal, or at least the closest rehearsal, storming an enemy ship and taking it over. Your stomach flips. Pirates didn't just fire cannons and wait. They climbed ropes, swung over gaps, and fought tooth and nail for every plank. You're expected to be right in the thick of it. The captain hands you a cutlass, rusty, dull, and surprisingly heavy. You swing it experimentally and almost fall over. The crew laughs, but not unkindly. You learn the basics: how to parry, thrust, and fake a swing. Stubb teaches you a few moves, mostly to avoid embarrassing yourself. Mainstream historical fact: boarding was a central tactic for pirates. Instead of sinking ships, they preferred to capture them intact. Pirates used grappling, hooks, and boarding planks to cross between vessels and overwhelm the crew with brutal close combat. Quirky tidbit: some pirate crews developed specialized boarding songs to coordinate attacks. These weren't sea shanties, but aggressive chants to boost morale and intimidate foes. Historians still argue whether pirate boarding tactics were more chaotic brawls or carefully planned assaults. Some accounts suggest terrifying discipline. Others hint at wild, drunken malaise. You're exhausted but exhilarated. You're terrified but strangely alive. Maybe, just maybe, you could hack it. Night falls. The ship creaks. The stars are out again. You're on watch duty, the quietest and most nerve-wracking job aboard. Alone, in the dark, you scan the horizon for lights, sails, or the flash of a distant cannon. Every shadow looks like a ghost. Your mind races. You'll remember the stories of ships lost without a trace, swallowed by storms or attacked by unknown enemies. You think of the Caribbean's hidden reefs, the Devil's Triangle, and cursed waters. Mainstream historical fact: night watches were crucial. Pirates often sailed by moonlight or star maps, but risked running aground on reefs or missing enemy ships. Watches lasted hours, with few breaks. Quirky tidbit: some pirates believed that whistling at night would summon bad luck or sea monsters. You find yourself biting your tongue and avoiding tunes. Historians still argue how effective pirate night watches really were, especially when crews were tired or drunk. Some say pirates were superb sailors. Others claim chaos reigned under the stars. As you grip the railing, the wind whispers and the waves slap against the hull. You feel a strange calm. It's just you and the sea. For now, the cook's mess is a dangerous place, not because of knives or fire but because of pirate cuisine. You sit down to eat a meal called hardtack and brine, a mix of rock-hard biscuits soaked in salty water. Paired with greasy salted pork, it tastes like chewing on a leather boot dipped in ocean water. Stubb nudges you. Wait till you try the ship's biscuit surprise. You eye the suspicious stew bubbling nearby. It's got unidentifiable chunks and smells like yesterday's regrets. Mainstream historical fact: pirates' diets were famously bland and lacked fresh food, leading to scurvy, a deadly vitamin C deficiency. They ate salted meat, hard biscuits, and sometimes fruit when lucky. Quirky tidbit: some pirate cooks resorted to bizarre tricks to make meals edible, like soaking biscuits in stale beer or adding spices stolen from captured ships. Historians still argue whether pirates ever enjoyed decent food or if tales of rotten meals are exaggerated. Some crews managed to raid enough fresh supplies to survive better than naval sailors. You grit your teeth and swallow. Stubb laughs. If you can eat this, you can eat anything. You're learning to read the crewer. Survival skill often more important than swordplay. Pirate ships were melting pots, sailors from all over, speaking different languages, with pasts darker than the ocean depths. Tensions ran high. One wrong word could mean a fist fight or worse. You watch alliances form and break over grog, gambling and grudges. Respect was everything. You realize that trust was as precious as gold hard-earned and easily lost. Mainstream historical fact: pirate crews often operated democratically, voting on captains and sharing loot equally. This unusual system bred camaraderie, but also fierce rivalry and drama. Quirky tidbit: some pirates developed their own slang and secret signs to communicate, from subtle nods to hidden tattoos. Historians still argue whether pirate democracy was a genuine social experiment or just a convenient way to keep violent men in check. You learn to smile, nod, and watch your back, because on a pirate ship, the crew can be your best friend or your worst nightmare. Weeks have passed. You're battered, exhausted, and maybe a little bit braver, but the sea is still relentless. Storms batter the ship with cold, unforgiving rain. The wood creaks and groans like it might break apart any second. You're soaked, freezing, and fighting the urge to crawl into your hammock and never leave. Yet, somehow, you keep going. Mainstream historical fact: pirate ships faced brutal weather, from tropical storms to icy gales. Many didn't survive more than a few years at sea. Quirky tidbit: some pirates believed carrying a monkey or a parrot brought good luck in storms. Others thought salt water washes away bad luck, though it rarely worked. Historians still argue whether pirates' survival rates were better or worse than naval sailors, given their risky lifestyles and frequent battles. As the storm rages, you huddle on deck, clutching the rigging. You realize something. You wouldn't last a day on a medieval pirate ship, not because of the fights, or the food, or even the lice, but because out here, every moment demands everything you have: your courage, your wits, your stubborn will to survive. And somehow, you're still here, not just surviving, but part of the wild, chaotic dance of the sea. Now, as the ship finally calms and the storm fades into distant thunder, Your breath slows, and your body sinks into the comforting weight of your hammock. The sounds of creaking wood and gentle waves lull you into a softer rhythm. You feel the sea's heartbeat beneath you, steady and ancient. It reminds you that, while you wouldn't last a day on this ship, you're still alive to tell the tale. The ocean is vast and unforgiving, but for a fleeting moment, it was yours to challenge. So, let your eyes close and let the salty air carry you into dreams of distant horizons, starry nights, and the endless whisper of waves. Sleep well, knowing that, while pirates may roam the seas, you've conquered your own little voyage tonight.